Hey guys, it's Robert from East Coast Line Design. Today I want to talk to you about how I sand up my charcuterie boards and prep them for finishing or cutting boards depending on what I'm making. Today we've got two pretty nice unique boards that we're working on. One is a M's and W pattern zigzag. So the reason it's called M's and W's is it goes one big, one little in the zigzag. So then you kind of get an M or a W shape. So in this orientation, it's an M. If it was flipped around, it'd be a W. This one is 2 strips of maple, cherry, maple, oak, maple, black walnut, maple, cherry, and 2 strips of maple again. It's about 13 by 18 and a half. So 13 and a quarter by 18 and a half. So it's a nice size board. This one is maple with a black walnut insert for a hanging hole. I've done similar styles to this in the past. So we'll be using the maxxt 5mm stroke random orbital sander. It's hooked up to a shop vac off camera. And for me, I like to work on more than one board at a time when I'm sanding. And the progression of grits I personally go in, and it's just based on availability, sometimes I use slightly different grits, is I like to go, for something like this, I'll have it running in the drum sander, the thickness sander, to clean it up after glue up. So it'll go thickness sander at 80 grit. Then I'll do an 80 grit random orbit to take off the straight line marks from the thickness sander. And that's where it's currently at, is the random orbit sander. Then I'll do a round over with the router or chamfer, depending on the board. And then I'll do another pass with the random orbital sander just to clean up any tear out from the round over. And that's where these both boards are currently sitting at. So I don't have to start at, I don't have to go do the 80 grit anymore. I'm going right into my next grit, which is 120. So I'm just grabbing a pencil here. So when I'm doing my boards, I like to do what's called the pencil trick. So you take a carpenter's pencil, any kind of pencil really, but a carpenter's works better. This is a Nick Pro mechanical carpenter's pencil with built-in sharpener. I'll post a link where I got this. Very inexpensive. And you scribble across the surface, and when you sand with a particular grit, once those scribble marks come off, then you know you've sanded through that grit to even out the surface, and you're ready to move on to your next one. I don't water pop my boards, as I don't have water in the shop, and a lot of boards are made in the colder months, so it's not feasible to have water in here. And I find it's not been a problem because I sand up to 220 in all my boards. So it works out really good. And I just tell customers that you might get a bit of fuzzing when they first use it. It's just a convenience thing. I might start doing it, but I found no measurable difference when I did do it on a couple of boards. So for me, I go 80, 120, 150, 220. Sometimes I'll do 180 instead of 150, but when I purchased this pack of paper, I couldn't get the 180. So 150 is a very good between 120 and 220, and I've used 150 in a couple other brands, and I quite like the results. So it's cubic zirconium blue pads from Home Hardware here in Canada, under their Benchmark brand. I get a 50 pack when they go on sale for usually around 10 bucks a pack. I think they're like 30 bucks regular price, so it's a really good deal. So we're gonna put on the 120. So when I'm doing, like I said, I do the pencil trick, so I like to just scribble across the surface of the boards, And I typically like to scribble both sides of the board before I start. That way I don't have to stop. I can just go right into the next side. And when I have boards that are live edge or square edge, it doesn't really matter. I like to do the edges before I move into the faces. So you'll see me sanding the edges of this board. Typically with something that's double-sided like this, or even with the live edge boards, I like to sand it up, go down, do the round over on the corner, rotate it, do it, and keep going like that. This board's a little bit harder for that because of the black walnut kind of nub, but it's still quite doable. So I'll do both boards at 120, then I'll change the paper on the sander to 150, and then again to 220. So this is all gonna be very sped up, people, because you don't need to be sitting here for 20 minutes watching me sand. So it doesn't take too long to sand even a big board like this using the 5mm stroke sander, because it sands about twice as fast as your store-bought, like your big box store palm sanders like DeWalt, Hyper Tough, which is my old one, or Hypertech, I can't remember. Like any of your sub $100 orbital sanders will be a 2.5mm stroke. This is 5. It takes a lot less time. I typically like to listen to music when I'm doing this, regardless of the time, though. So, when I'm sanding, especially in the bigger boards, I like to offset by 1/2 on each pass. So, 5-inch pad, 2.5-inch step over, so that I'm basically sanding every spot 2 times. And on this board, it's really easy to do that because the narrow strips are 1 inch and the big strips are 1.5 inches. So I'm able to get that 2.5-inch step over real easy. So I'm just going to plow through it without talking anymore until we get to the very end. I'm going to switch to the 150 now. You can skip to 220, but the common wisdom is you never want to go 50% more than your previous grit. So in the case of 120, the next ideal grit is 180, because 50% of 120 is 60. 60 plus 120 is 180. Again, I just couldn't get the 180 when I purchased this last set of packs, so that's the only reason I'm using 150. It's still a better step than going from 120 to 220. You can do it, and I've done it, but it does take a little bit extra time, so it's just not worth the hassle in my opinion. I know 150 is only a 30 grit step up, but it does make the difference. Alright guys, so our boards are done. I don't know if the camera's going to really pick this up compared to earlier, but I find once you get past 150, you're right onto your 220, your definition of color between the boards really changes, even without finish. I find they're really, really stand out. Like this oak stands out really much to my eye compared to earlier. So, you probably noticed when I went to the 220, I did not sand the edges. I find it's a little bit of wasted effort for the gains. Your mileage might vary. Live edge, I'll typically sand the live edge to 220, but not the straight edges. So I'll take my last grid I did on the sides, which was 150. I'm just gonna go over the corners up here by the handle, just a little. We got a little burn marks from the routering. Just needs a little like 5-minute sanding. Just to clean up some of the burn marks and some tear out from the router. I don't typically need to do too much of this. And that's it. So these boards are now ready for board butter. And I'll post a picture at the end of the video showing what they look like finished. So hope you liked the video, guys. Hope it helped you with your sanding and your cutting and charcuterie boards. Excuse me. If you liked the video, throw me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button to see more videos. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Thanks, bye.